A lot has changed since Boris Johnson entered number 10 Downing Street in 2019. For the UK's new Prime Minister, it was the end of a long journey to the top of the government and an opportunity to challenge his critics.
Doubters, the doomsters, the gloomsters, they are going to get it wrong again.
Now, it appears he's facing more of them than ever. 3 years on, Johnson is fighting for political survival after stumbling through scandal after scandal. But how did a once popular Prime Minister, who led the Conservatives to their most convincing electoral victory since Margaret Thatcher, become a political pariah with more enemies than friends? His leadership got off to a rocky start after the Supreme Court ruled that Johnson had unlawfully prorogued Parliament for 5 weeks ahead of the Brexit deadline.
The Prime Minister's advice to Her Majesty was unlawful, void and of no effect.
It's thought he did so to avoid MPs blocking a no-deal Brexit. When the pandemic hit, he urged the public to remain indoors, but backed his spin doctor, Dominic Cummings, after he broke his own stay-at-home order to travel 500 miles whilst positive for coronavirus. Johnson's ally since the successful Brexit campaign, Cummings' departure from Downing Street in November was a major blow to the Prime Minister's power base. Later that year, a formal investigation found evidence that Johnson's Home Secretary, Priti Patel, had bullied staff in her department and breached the ministerial code.
Set out to upset anyone.
Johnson once again stuck by Patel, despite the damning result. This led to his first ethics advisor, Sir Alex Allen, to quit in disgust. Then came that video. Downing Street advisors in a mock press conference, joking about parties held during the height of lockdown in the Prime Minister's home. Johnson apologised, but maintained that the events had taken place without his knowledge. 2 separate investigations were launched, one undertaken by leading civil servant Sue Gray at Johnson's request, the other by the Metropolitan Police, making him the first British Prime Minister to have been asked questions under caution. He was later fined £50. While the legal matter has been resolved, Partygate is not over yet, with the investigation into whether the Prime Minister deliberately misled Parliament over the scandal only just beginning. For the first time, Johnson began to see his own MPs turn their backs on him. 2022 began with a shock defection. Christian Wakeford, who had ridden the Prime Minister's popularity to electoral victory in 2019, crossed the floor, calling on Johnson to resign. This, along with 2 by-election losses to Labour, have gradually chipped away at the Conservatives' majority, and MPs are not happy. Dissent within the party came to a head in June, when Johnson faced a real challenge to his position in a vote of confidence. He survived by an uncomfortably narrow margin. Then came the latest, and possibly last, scandal. Former Deputy Chief Whip Chris Pincher dramatically resigned at the end of June, following allegations that he groped 2 guests at a Tory private members club. Downing Street initially said the Prime Minister was not aware of any specific allegations when he was appointed, but it later emerged that he knew all along, and was later forced into a humiliating apology over his handling of the row. As Johnson was being humbled on national television, a rebellion was brewing. 2 key ministers offered their resignation within 10 minutes of each other, followed by a slew of others in the following hours. If he withstands the latest challenge to his leadership, many will consider Boris Johnson the luckiest man in political history, though it appears increasingly unlikely. Cats might have 9 lives, but it's unclear whether prime ministers do too.